Against that background, then, let's move on to talk about, first of all, the sale of goods. So there are a number of rights that the consumer has with regard to the supply of goods. And those of you familiar with the Sale of Goods Act will know that these effectively were what we always had, typically. And what I'm going to do is to go through all of these. We'll see that the number 14 there, goods to match a model seen or examined, is something that's been added more recently, but all the others were there in the previous legislation, albeit they were in a slightly different order. Okay, fourth right for the consumer. The item must match any sample. So you'll see here, goods are to match a sample, except to the extent differences have been brought to the consumer's attention. And obviously, goods will be free from defect and would not be apparent on reasonable examination. So we're interested in the fact that if somebody brings, or rather a consumer purchases some form of tester pot for paint, or they get a swatch of fabric for curtains, or indeed some form of little carpet square in terms of a potential carpet, the end result that they then purchase on the back of that particular sample should match. And it's fairly unsurprising that if it doesn't match, unsurprisingly, the consumer can effectively reject, as we'll see in a minute, and typically get a replacement, or indeed they can get their money back, as we'll see. Well, they're entitled either to a repair within a reasonable time, no significant inconvenience at the trader's expense, so just what we've been talking about earlier, or they can claim compensation to be paid without undue delay, no later than 14 days, with no fee. Now, the key thing to note here is that this is highly controversial, and also practically nobody knows about this. When the example of compensation could be significant. If I was to download some form of digital content onto my highly expensive Apple Mac that's worth thousands and thousands, and it causes damage, then ultimately that could be a very significant either repair bill or claim for compensation in the circumstances. But sadly, I'm not aware of any cases that have gone to the court, and I suspect most of the time, most consumers are completely blissfully unaware of this, as indeed probably many traders are as well. But technically it's there, and you might one day want to use it.